Geek out!
1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. 3, 4, Freddy's coming for you. 5, 6, Freddy's coming for you. 7, 8, Freddy's coming for you. 9.
5 years have passed since Nancy Thomas's horrific ordeal, and a new family has moved into her home. Jesse, the older son, is plagued by nightmares upon moving in and is pressured to kill for the scary boogeyman who visits him while he is asleep. Can Jesse resist the killer urge being forced into his brain? Or is the dream demon too strong for him to control? Well, welcome back to another episode of A Nightmare on Geek Out Street. This week or month, this episode, we are talking about Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Revenge. And I am, as always, your lovely host, Chris Nolan. And sitting next to me is my lovely co-host for this episode, Mr. Sam Stowe.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming along. First guest of the Nightmare series, so congratulations for that.
It's my favorite of the, I'm not the biggest slasher guy, but I think Freddy is kind of a different kind of slasher because he's not a traditional, though, interesting thing about this movie, not a whole hell of a lot of Freddy slashing per se.
No, one of the factoids that kept coming up while I was researching it was that he only gets like a collective 15 minutes of screen time, if that. Maybe it's like 13 out of an hour and a half movie.
Yeah.
Real quick, Samuel, you did mention that he's your favorite of the slashers. Why don't you give us a brief overview of how you were introduced, or how you got into and how you maintain being into the Krugster.
The Krugster, Freddy Krueger. What are my early memories of Freddy Krueger? So, I come online at, I guess, the peak of Freddydom, which is to say the late 80s, early 90s. That's when I start to remember shit and at least take in my surroundings and everything. And, from an early age, again, slasher movies never really did it for me, even though my father had brought me up on a steady diet of the classic Universal horror films. They're always black and white and kind of cheesy, so you never felt threatened by those movies.
Right.
The slasher movies, Jason, Freddy, Leatherface, Michael Myers, they always Pinhead, they always felt basically everybody on your poster over there. It was always color, and it was always gory, and it was always bloody, and there was always jump scares, and that was always terrifying, and to some degree still is. But the one that stuck out was Freddy, because he never, and I remember seeing old TV guides, or remember those cable magazines?
I do.
Yeah, where you would see stuff for hey, Freddy's dead, the final nightmare, or Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday, or just stuff from that era. And Freddy always stuck out because he was always he was the clown. He was the one that would always crack jokes.
And he was also the most colorful, to bring in the fact that you invoked the color.
And yeah, there's jump scares in the Nightmare films, totally. There's jump scares in this movie, but it was never just, boo, I'm going to, not necessarily boo, I'm going to leap out and slash you with my steak knife fingers. It was hey, I'm going to make you eat yourself. Or, hey, my fingers are now syringes and I'm going to OD you. Or with this film, I'm going to punch through your chest.
Yeah, with my face.
Yeah. So
with my eyes.
Yeah, it's they haven't heard that episode yet.
No.
You
will.
You will.
It'll be a throwback by the time you hear it.
Yeah. So, I mean, this I guess it debuts here technically.
Woo.
But I one of the things I appreciated, which is a weird way to say it, is the way Freddy killed was always kind of more imaginative.
Right. No, yeah, it was a very inventive series in general, which is probably one of the reasons why it's my favorite as well. So to get into some of the things about this particular installment, let's go over the production notes. It was released on November 1st, 1985, the year of my birth, and almost exactly a year after the release of the first one. If I remember correctly, the first one was released on November 4th, 1984. So, yeah, pretty good on them getting that, the year turnaround, the same weekend a year later. So, good on you, New Line.
At this time, New Line's still an indie studio, isn't it?
barely even an indie studio. I talked about it on the previous episode, but like at this point, New Line was really just a distributor, like not even really a studio. And this movie, even more so than the first movie, is what kind of solidified them as a studio.
As you have pointed out before, the house Freddy built.
Yeah, exactly. So the runtime on this guy is 85 minutes, which 6 minutes shorter than the previous installment. And they got a new writer and director for this one. It was written by David Chaskin and directed by Jack Shoulder, although Robert Shea, the head of New Line Cinema, came back to produce it. It was filmed in Fontana, Los Angeles, Palmdale, and Woodland Hills, all in California, and yet still somehow manages to almost resemble Ohio.
More than Halloween ever did.
Yeah. And it had a budget of $3 million, which is almost double the previous installment. I believe the previous installment was 1.8. So, rounding down, it is double. And then it grossed $29.9 million, which is a good almost 4.5 more than the first one got. So they're on the upswing.
Yep.
So good on them.
Yeah, well, if I remember correctly, this one was something that did gangbusters, or at least did perform better overseas.
Yeah. Oh, Europe loved it because, we'll get into it, of course, because it's the big thing that everyone remembers. But like, there's a lot of subtext of the homoerotica or homosexuality in general, which is just a lot more accepted, a lot more.
Certainly, in 1985, it's less taboo in Western Europe.
Exactly, and here it's still like, at the time,
especially in 1985.
Yeah,
it's Reagan's America.
Yeah, but so here we go. After the success of 1984's A Nightmare on Elm Street, New Line Cinema was set to make a sequel. Unfortunately, Wes Craven had no desire to continue Nightmare as an ongoing series, to the point where he even was upset that they had the twist ending at the end of the first one.
That was reshoot material.
Mm-hmm. He wanted it, and very, very obviously reshoot material too. But he wanted it to actually have just a happy ending of everyone, riding off into the sunset. But New Line, of course, had the rights to the characters, so they carried on without them. They picked up, like I said, the new writer and director for this installment. Shea, the producer and head of the studio, reportedly micromanaged the entire production, often overstepping his role and confusing cast and crew, which something that still happens a lot to this day. Amazing that they got the cohesive story that they got, but I guess since it was just one guy kind of overstepping instead of like an entire committee, it wasn't a shit show per se. When he first got approached, Robert Englund demanded a pay raise in order to return, which was originally refused, but after a couple weeks of shooting with an extra standing in as Freddy, Shea chose to agree to Englund's terms. So that's good. And, Englund, pivotal part, essential part of the movie. So good on him for getting his pay raise and getting back into the hat.
Which probably explains why he's only in it for 15 minutes. Because, he's like, they're just like, oh shit, we need him.
Yeah, right?
They probably originally had written it assuming after he got dropped that he wouldn't come back.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I hadn't even thought of that. But yeah, that's probably very much so why he only has the collective 15-ish minutes. Sorry, I had a burp. The new direction of the script also led to some perplexing moments in the film, notably the party scene where apparently Freddy is now able to pop into the real world and kill his victims. That
contrary to the entire film.
Yeah, that threw off even the cast, especially Robert Englund. Was just like, what? This breaks the rules of that we established in the previous movie, the only other movie in the series. And then also Jesse's dancing scene while he's cleaning up his room, where, according to Mark Patton, the actor who played Jesse, everything that he did was written into the script, including the phrase, Jesse bumps his ass against the door 3 times and gets on the bed and pretends to masturbate.
Get a copy of that shooting script, kids.
Right? I mean, that's how I clean my room. I don't know what he's freaking out about.
Yeah, pretend. No, I mean,
Who wears pants while they clean their room?
Yeah. Just bumps the ass. Just 3 times. Yeah, it's a weird movie, man.
Yeah. So like specifically with like that scene, it reminded me a lot of Troll 2.
Yeah.
If you've seen it, where there's a scene where the daughter is supposed to like dance around and be. It's been so long since I've seen the movie that I forget exactly what she's doing, but basically like the same thing. She's getting ready and dancing in front of the mirror, and she herself is an American teenager, and the director is, if I remember correctly, a middle-aged Italian man or maybe French, somewhere in Europe. He is European. And she's trying to be like, this is not what American girls do. I don't even think that this is what European girls do. Like she's just like, this is not what I do when I'm getting ready. And he's like, you don't know, and I like a Tommy Wiseau. You don't know. I know, American girls. You don't know American girls. And she's just like, but so like, especially with like that scene, like it kind of clicked when I was watching it today to kind of refresh my memory. Like a lot of the stuff that people say about with the homosexual undertones and stuff like that, I was like, I don't know, is this just old men who wrote this not really knowing what teens are into nowadays, like and maybe everyone's just interpreting it because they wanted to interpret it. But then we come to this while on the subject of Jesse. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Yes, the movie is known for its homosexual undertones. Originally, the crew denied it being intentional, rather letting the fact that Patton, again, the actor who played Jesse, was an openly gay actor being the excuse for some of the characters' actions coming across as such. But later, Chaskin, the writer, admitted that he had put they had all been put in to give the character, quote, more depth. This did lead to Patton referring to himself humorously as the first male scream queen, especially since he had a very effeminate scream, in the movie that was chastised a lot.
Also, only male protagonist.
Yes,
in the entire franchise,
and one of the few male protagonists in the genre itself.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's very predominantly, female protagonists, and at best or at most, male counterpart to her. But on a happy note, apparently the awkward dancing scene did get an extended popularity in various gay clubs, and therefore so did he. So good on him.
Yeah.
And afterwards, or after a while, he started to kind of accept it, and now he has fun with it. Probably if, like, you see him at a con or something like that, he'd probably pose with it. I don't know. I don't want to put up anyone's expectations. Don't go up to him and ask him to pretend to masturbate with a racket or whatever the hell it was that he was holding.
Yeah. Probably not the best. Yeah.
No. And then so not having Nancy, the protagonist of the first movie, return was ultimately decided on because the changes between this and the last one were so drastic. Although apparently Nancy's return was not in the plans from the start. Later in the production, when the possibility was brought up, the reasoning for leaving her out was that since Freddy had evolved into something so different, they wanted to branch out. They wanted to branch out as far away as possible, or as far away as they could, and they felt that bringing Nancy back might kind of confuse things and be like, but remind people that, like, oh, Freddy can't do this. He's a dream demon. This is the only movie in the franchise proper where, other than Robert Englund, there is no returning actors or characters. Although, oddly enough, this film does still focus around Nancy's house, and is the last film where it plays such a big role. In later installments, it's really just kind of a visual gag to remind everyone, that it's a integral part of, for the Freddy lure. Like in part 3 that we'll discuss next time, that there's the papier-mâché house, or when someone's having a dream, they'll get zapped to the house, Nancy's house.
Yeah, usually with like schoolgirls playing and saying the rhyme and
yeah. Also, that is not in the movie.
Yeah.
The
1,
rhyme.
2, Freddy's coming for you.
All that jazz.
Yeah.
So brief overview of the movie. We've got, like I said, Jesse and his family move into Nancy's old house. Jesse has these nightmares where Freddy's coming at him and just kind of like, being like, you're going to kill for me. You've got the body. I've got the brains. Stuff like that. And he's the new kid in town. He kind of bullied for the first couple minutes of the movie, and then he becomes really popular with the one guy, which is part of the reason why people think that there's a lot of homosexual undertones to the movie. Yeah. They're close. They're buds. They're bros.
Yeah.
Crazy thing is the first kill isn't until like 30 minutes into the movie.
It takes
takes its time. I mean,
there's a nightmare sequence, but it's not that you don't actually really get into kills until about a third of the way through.
I mean, even the first one, there was only 4 kills in the entire movie spread out over 90 minutes. Yeah. So like I wasn't like shocked that there wasn't a kill for the first half hour, but like even the first one had a kill within the first like 20 minutes. Yeah. So Coach Schneider, who as soon as the movie started, or as soon as it showed him, I was like, I know this guy. Who the hell is this guy? And it's the fucking dude that plays Quato in Total Recall, or the body that Quato inhabits. And I was like, oh, fucking right, that guy.
Also in Starship Troopers.
Yes, he plays the drill sergeant, or
he's a dude.
Yeah,
drill sergeant is the voice of Lex Luthor in Superman the Animated Series.
Right.
Yeah, Clancy Brown.
Yeah, no, that's right. Okay. It's been a while since I've seen Starship Troopers. I haven't popped in the brand new Laserdisc yet. But yeah. So he. After a couple nightmares, Freddy is finally able to kind of like take hold of Jesse and guides him to the nightclub that the coach hangs out in, and it's like a BDSM club. And then like Schneider finds him and takes him to the school to do laps. For some reason, at this point, I was like, because it had been years since I've seen this movie. I was like, oh, okay, is this some sort of like weird, like, like dream? Like, has he invaded Schneider's dream, and like that's what's going on? No, it's all real life. Yeah, they went to the school.
It's just really weird, man.
Yeah. But then when he sends Jesse to the showers, Schneider gets attacked by balls, like basketball, baseballs, tennis balls, and weights and stuff like that. And then jump ropes start dragging him to the showers, lash him to the shower nozzles, and then Freddy like embodies Jesse and like starts slashing him, and that's how he kills him. And I gotta say, like, that was like watching it, like I was like, a lot of people, like the fandom in general, like shit on this movie because it's like so far removed from the rest of the series. But like watching it, I was like, these are kind of interesting choices, especially like later on, when Freddy comes back, like a fucking another half hour later, and goes on his little killing spree. Like I was like, this actually, like I want like. Had they done a little bit better job, maybe understood or like played it more like ambiguous with like maybe like a mental illness or something like that, I was like, this could be an interesting origin story for a serial killer, like like a Dahmer type, who like one of the big things or one of the big theories about like how he ended up was he was struggling with the his internalized shame for being a homosexual and lashing out against other people who were more open about it, because he couldn't come to terms with his own, who he was. So he, had to go out and, take it out. Like basically this has the formula of an interesting idea of like blaming the darkness inside you on, some demon, kind of like the Son of Sam killing, blamed it on the dog talking to him. And like I was like, ooh, if they had just stepped their toe over the line just a little bit more, and maybe done some more psychology research when penning this script, it would have been an amazing deconstruction of that kind of mental breakdown. Therefore, I liked it.
In a way, it's almost like the most surreal nightmare film. Though I don't know how much of that is just poor writing and editing. But it is the most kind of in a franchise that focuses revolves around dreams. It is one of the most surreal. Yeah. You're just like, okay, like when he kills Coach Snyder and comes out of the steam, and you're just like, oh fuck, or the stuff with Grady and not being able to
that scene with Grady, I loved it. So like lots of time passes.
You're saying like close to 30 minutes.
Yeah. In movie time, for a movie that's not even a full 90 minutes, to go 30 minutes without a kill it's wild. Especially since there's 12 deaths in this movie.
Most in a single scene.
Yes, most within about 3 minutes. Actually, most within about a minute. But yeah. So a lot of things happen where he finds Nancy's old diary. It talks about how she was plagued by Freddy Krueger. So right there, you could have thrown in oh, maybe it's a haunted house. However much you wanted to expand on the individual story of the people in this thing, but then we get to a party scene. Jesse, I guess his girlfriend. They do say they love each other by the end of the movie.
End, yeah.
So Jesse's girlfriend.
Jesse's girl.
Yeah, exactly. Lisa. She's throwing a party because she has a pool, and Jesse starts to freak out because he's, for lack of a better, we're suspending my understanding, from being the audience, he's hallucinating, that he's turning into Freddy. He's got, the big creepy tongue coming out while they're, making out. He runs off to his buddy Ron's. Not Weasley, and
Grady.
Yeah. And is like, you gotta watch me. You gotta pay attention. You gotta make sure I don't, go nuts or anything like that. And that's where we get the cool, amazing transformation scene where, we see Freddy just burst out of Jesse's chest, which, to this, watching it on the DVD that I have, I was like, man, that's so cool. To me, it looks awesome, especially he slashes across his torso, and that's where the head actually pops out and is like, Murr! But while I'm watching this scene again, me, the internal filmmaker and guy that I guess probably knows more about mental illness than what's his name, the guy that wrote this movie. I was like, this would be a perfect moment where we see from Jesse's perspective that Freddy's popping out of him, but then we see from Ron's perspective, and it's just Jesse freaking out. This is all just going on inside his head. We didn't get that. We got Freddy actually enters into the real world. Within this universe, it's just, oh, hey, I'm Freddy Krueger, and I'm real now. And the stab through the door is so cool. Because we see the blood coming out, so we know that it's going through Ron. And, the screams stop. And then, it cuts back to, there's Jesse covered in blood. Again, another great moment to just be like, look, it's all in his head. He's actually going around being a serial killer. But, since this is part of a franchise, we got to keep it, with Freddy. He runs back to the party and is like, I killed him. And then that's where Freddy comes out and starts going on his little rampage at the party. Kills, like we said, I think it's about 7 people, all within the span of about a minute. And one of them just being trampled by other people. It's not even Freddy kill. Come on. And then he runs off because his love for Lisa starts to overpower Freddy because that's the power of love. And then they go back to the boiler room, the factory of pipes. That is.
If there is one, you were mentioning the house earlier. If there is one recurring element in the Nightmare films, it's where human Freddy met his end.
Yeah, that factory, whatever it produces, it's just a series of steam pipes and fire.
Yeah. I always just assumed it was a furnace.
Yeah, big old boiler room for something. It's like that. It's like a hair metal music video where they're just all in a factory that all it does is produce sparks.
Very industrial.
Yeah. But yeah, so he goes there. Lisa runs in, confronts him, and like they have this whole I love you too, but it's like Jesse's voice coming out of Freddy's mouth, and then just fire starts, and Freddy gets burnt to a crisp, and much like a phoenix rising from the ashes, Jesse emerges from Freddy's charred body, and they live happily ever after until the next morning when they get on the bus. Turns out they're still in a dream. And Carrie dies in a very cool way. She gets a little chest burster of gloved hand. So hurrah! And then the school bus drives off into the sunset, presumably to kill all the kids on the bus.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Nancy survived getting driven away in fucking the original. So
yeah,
maybe Jesse and Lisa and all their friends made it. Maybe not. We'll never know. We never really see them again.
Carrie definitely doesn't make it.
Carrie's definitely dead.
Yeah, it would have been nice. I mean, clearly, after this movie came out and after a bit of a backlash and what's the word, backtracking for the third one, I think they kind of wanted to sweep this one under the rug as much. But I would have loved to see Jesse come back.
They do, and I was surprised when we saw this, not this past Halloween, but the Halloween before. Mm-hmm. They do include clips from Freddy's Revenge.
That's true.
In Freddy vs. Jason.
Yeah. Because that chest burster scene, still cool.
Yeah.
So yeah. I totally understand them including it, even if it is just that,
Yeah.
I understand them not wanting to include the lore, but half these movies end with Freddy somehow being dragged into the real world, and that's how he's defeated.
Yeah.
Why can't he drag himself?
Yeah. I think this movie takes a lot of flack because it isn't. I mean, they haven't established a formula yet.
Yeah.
It's the second movie.
Yeah. The second movie is how you establish the formula because it's what you keep from the first movie.
It's really the movie that informs the rest of Nightmare more so than the original is Dream Warriors, and that's just on the horizon. Yeah.
So then some just quick facts coming at you. The cold open length was about 5 minutes 48 seconds. That's to the second for when Jesse wakes up screaming, as he is wont to do as the first male scream queen. Location, it's set again on Elm Street in Springwood, Ohio. Timeline, it is, like I said at the top, it's 5 years later, so it's set in 1986, so it's set in the future. Kill count in this movie, like I said, 12 people. Well, technically 12 people die. The count that I looked up included Jesse and Lisa into that, and that's speculative. So we're going with 10 people die, which means a total of 14 people have died at Freddy's hand, and I guess that means 14 people have died total in the series so far. Huzzah! Hey, Sam, I know you didn't get to watch it with me. I don't know how much you recall, but what's your favorite kill in this movie? Do you have a favorite kill?
The most atmospheric is Coach Schneider.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the most traditional, and the image of Freddy coming out of the steam or whatever is pretty fucking cool. Yeah. And like you were saying, him getting kind of like suspended up. We kind of see that we usually see that with like bed sheets, like somebody getting in a Freddy movie.
That definitely happens in the third one.
Yeah, whereas this one it's just like jump ropes because it's athletic.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Freddy uses his environment.
But the party scene's kind of just like we've danced around this a lot. The party scene is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, I'm going through and killing everybody.
So I put down Schneider as also my favorite kill. The party scene kind of in general is like the lamest kill because 6 out of the 7 party goers, because that their name in the script is party guest. Sorry, they don't get names because it doesn't matter. Except the last guy does get a name. But I for whatever reason I didn't write it down. He's just party goer number 7. Like he has a name like Toby or something like that because he has a line. But yeah, basically it's just swipe, swipe, swipe. One guy gets trampled. Swipe, toss you into the boiling pool. Toss you into the boiling pool, and then partygoer number 7, Toby, I think, comes up and he's like, "Hey man, what do you want? Calm down, man." Tries to be the negotiator. Again, perfect time to cut back and show that it's just Jesse wearing the glove. But no, it's Freddy. And then he just tosses him into the barbecue grill. And apparently that kills him. So that's what, specifically that death is what I call the lamest death in the movie.
One of the lamest deaths, perhaps, in the series.
Yeah. Perhaps.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
You'll find out at home, kids.
Yeah. You'll go on this journey with us. Yeah. How long did the killing spree, how long until the killing spree starts, and how long did it last? It's almost exactly the 1 hour mark when Ron Grady dies, and I'm putting that as the start to the killing spree because like you could say that it's just the party scene in general, but like Ron dying is really what kickstarts the spree kill, which means that it goes for about 10 minutes and 7 seconds until Toby maybe is killed. Did anyone survive this movie? As far as we know, no. Everyone died.
Yeah, I mean, again, Nancy gets whisked away at the end of the first one, and she clearly at least survives to the next one. So we don't know for sure, but it's, I mean, in every Freddy movie ends with that kind of like, oh, you're actually fucked.
Yeah. Technically speaking, like within universe at this point, we still believe that Nancy is dead.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah.
Give it a couple years.
Yeah. Or in your case, listener at home, a couple weeks. The evolution of Freddy. How did he change in this one? The biggest change is that now he can possess the living in their waking state.
Which I think the only other time he does it is Freddy vs. Jason.
Yeah, because he does that to not Jay. What the hell was his name? Like Smokey or something like that?
Something like that.
Yeah.
It's not a particularly
No.
creative movie when it comes at least to naming. But
No.
Yeah.
Weapons used other than his glove, boiling hot pool, and a barbecue grill. Every other death is somehow the knife glove. Although, one thing that did bother me in this movie, whenever Freddy was possessing Jesse, he just had knives coming out of his fingers. He wasn't wearing the glove. And that really did bother me. Especially since they went through all the trouble of like showing Jesse holding the glove and stuff like that. And like it's the actual glove from the first movie on loan from Wes Craven. I read that. That was a factoid. You just got a factoid. Did the victims deserve to die within the morality of a horror movie? Fornicators. And the partygoers in general were all either fornicators or drug and alcohol users. Coach and Ron were both kind of assholes. But young Carrie, I couldn't find anything that she did that warranted her death. I mean, she was at the party, so she could very well be a fornicator or drug and alcohol user, but we never saw it. So, yes, poor Carrie. She was an innocent. And also, if you count Jesse and Lisa, they were innocents as well. They did make out and got into some heavy petting. So, yeah, they both deserve to die. How is the killer defeated? With love and fire.
Freddy's greatest weakness, his method of, well, that and I guess holy water.
Yeah.
But again, we'll get to there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Or being told that, you're not afraid of him.
Yeah. Well, it's like Jason being afraid of water.
Yeah, which doesn't happen until Freddy vs. Jason.
Yeah. Even though he's technically trapped underwater in New Blood?
Yeah, well, there's several times where his death is being trapped underwater, but like it's not until Freddy vs. Jason where he sees water and freezes because he's terrified of it. Yeah. Like in other installments, he's like, no, that's how I cloak myself. Yeah. I go swimming around. Yeah. Like it makes sense that he would fear water, but like there's no precedence for it. Anyway, but it does make sense that that Freddy would be afraid of fire.
Though you mentioned like straight up fears. Is there any moment where Freddy is straight up pyrophobic?
No, they just use it to kill him a lot. Or not even a lot, but a couple times. In fact, in the first movie, he's like on fire just walking through Nancy's house. And then that's how he kills Nancy's mom. How does Freddy come back? He was driving the bus.
Yeah.
Much like he was in the opening scene. It's a lot more obvious that it's him in the opening scene because like he has a straight up, like he spikes the camera, not in makeup. Like it's just straight up Robert Englund. Like, hey kids. One of the few times Robert Englund appears in one of these movies without makeup up until New Nightmare, where Robert Englund is just a straight up character in the movie.
And then in the prologue of Freddy vs. Jason, you also see Human England.
Yes. Human England. We are Human England.
But yeah. So I mean, again, I think this movie takes a lot of... It's not necessarily a good movie, but it's not as bad as we remember.
Yeah. Much like how, what is it, Friday Part 5, another one that I brought you
in
on.
The beginning, yeah.
I like to bring you on for the ones that get a lot of flack for being the worst in the series because they are bold.
Well, it's like when Jake brought me. I was like, look, man, if you can't get anyone for Lethal Weapon 3. So I'm trying to think what other weak installments of Night. I mean, it definitely overstays its welcome, I would argue.
Oh, yeah. After like 5 or 6, like it just kind of, what are you even doing?
Yeah. So I look forward to your call.
Hey, Sam, you want to be on the last like 4 movies?
Yeah. You want to do Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare?
I like that one.
You take him out with a pipe bomb.
Yeah, I think my copy has the 3D sequence intact. Anyway, yes, Sam, thank you for coming on.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I will see you next month in your nightmares. I guess I forget if I made up a cool sign off in the last movie. So, sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to disagree?
This has been another Geek Out production. If you enjoyed what you heard, hey, we've got a special episode every Friday. Of course, there's the usual catching up show every Wednesday. And you get book club episodes just about every Tuesday these days. Thanks for listening.